Um, Welcome to the, I guess, the February Contributors Hangout. Very quick names: Bhaskar,
Roberto, Göktuğ,
Brian, Sean.
Yeah, and Daniel.
Hi. Okay, so we don't have any external contributors right now on this. We have one who may be dialing in. So let's go around the room and just talk about where we are with various things, just various patches on the fly, and yeah, who wants to start first?
I can start.
Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, so I've merged a few patches, refactoring patches to enable merging the rest of the prototype, and I think that's going pretty well.
Yeah, just this morning you got, you started switching over to inst to strings, and things go pretty well.
So that's mostly what I've been doing.
He's also, some of the work, he started pulling in some of the prototype changes as well in parallel to some of the prototype changes I'm pulling in. So like, for separate compilation, we need to be able to make cast maps that are the complete list of all possible casts you could do, and those depend on string IDs. So he's working on the string ID part at the same time I'm working on the new code to get the full type hierarchy. So it's nice to be parallelizing some stuff. And we've got a spreadsheet of all the remaining files outstanding and sort of the categorization of what they're doing. And it looks like there's about, after all the seed ID changes, 30 files left and about like 6 sort of groups of files, sort of patches-ish. So it's looking promising.
Okay. I've been, well, besides taking time off, I've been working on trying to figure out what the issue is with the namespace patch, where it would work in super dev mode, but it wouldn't work in draft mode or any others. And it turned out that we are setting the namespace on too many symbols. So even though there's symbols that aren't really globals, the namespace was getting set. And in super dev mode, it didn't matter because we never used that symbol to create any more references. But when in the draft mode, there were things like emulated stack traces where it does create more references and the references were wrong. So I'm going back to that patch and rewriting it to just look for things that are really globals. So so it looks like, you know, now that I finally understand what's gone wrong, it should be pretty straightforward to fix it.
Okay, great. I think we have Andre, right?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hey, how are you?
Nice to see you. I'm glad you could make it. Okay. So anything else on the super dev mode? Anything?
The other big thing that's happening is we're running into issues with Firefox 27, largely is moving internal tests so that they keep running against Firefox 26, and also this is starting to look at in GWT test case. If we do switch from dev mode to web mode, there are issues there, like right now it's actually really hard to debug for a variety of reasons. So that's the other issue going on. Like when I finish up this patch, then I want to take a closer look at that. And I think Göktuğ is looking into that as well.
Not active right now, but
not right. Okay. Yeah, we're thinking about it.
Okay.
So, I mean, things like manual mode combined with web mode is really a pretty poor environment for debugging your code.
So you're saying if the tests pass, then it's fine, but if it fails, then it's just really hard.
Yeah, then you're kind of stuck. You're like, okay, it fails. Why did it fail? And I kind of figured out that something sort of works. I can add like with the debugger statements and make sure that I'm in draft mode, and make sure that pretty is on,
And source maps,
And we don't have source maps yet.
because that would probably help a lot for
Yeah,
understanding.
yeah, that would help. And the other thing is that the emulated, yeah, if source maps were on, this wouldn't be too big an issue, but since they're not, the whole emulated stack trace thing makes the JavaScript code pretty hard to
Really hard
So
to
source
understand.
maps are not on for the web mode.
For the
So-
tests.
Yeah, this was never integrated.
Yeah, there are-
We have to add that. So that will be.
So that's like a prerequisite or something, or do we need?
You probably don't want that on all the time for tests. You just want
Yeah.
to turn it on sometime.
Well,
Because
I
it'll
think
hurt
so.
performance.
I think the solution should be currently you can reach to a debuggable state by sending like 5 flags. We should have one flag like with debug, and they should
Just make it easier.
make it run in manual mode, include the source maps, and basically you can have a more workable environment. I think that's
Maybe add a debugger at the beginning, so
that's also another option, yes. And also, when you run in manual mode, you still have the option to use the dev mode, right? Because you can choose the browser. You can basically
What
choose the
URL you
browser.
hit.
Yeah. I mean, you can keep the Firefox 206 debug your test case as long as it's not Firefox 207 specific problem. So, but communicating that workflow might be difficult because it's not very
Yeah.
easy workflow. So there are a bunch of things that needs to be done on that side.
See any other?
Yeah, sure. So I might as well mention that $sign source name fix, because it actually affects, like, there were 4 people on the bug externally who had like different generators, APT style generators that hadn't worked for them.
Okay.
And it's been going on for like 2.5 years. So anyway, like, we now can properly handle most input that where there's a dollar sign.
Feels good when you can fix a bug
Fix
that's
a
been
lot,
there for
yeah.
like several years.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah, that's great.
So on my side, I have been mostly working on internal stuff. Other than that, I have sent a few pages for Greek test case. Some are for simplification of the test infrastructure. I have deleted a lot of code. The other one is for reducing the permutations for the web mode. So previously it was compiling all permutations. Now it will compile just the permutation that we are testing against. So those are in. Besides that, I have been working on the build-related proposals for internal stuff. So
is there any progress? I know Ray is not here, but do you know if
Yes,
he's made any progress
progress.
on the JS interface?
yeah, we talked with him. Yeah, I talked with him yesterday. So he was asking some questions, and I think he's experimenting with it right now. He implemented the prototype extensions, so it will generate a prototype class so that you can extend the prototype in your Java class.
Okay.
So he hit some issues that are not well defined in the spec. One of them is the instance of methods. The instance of check he implemented in a way that to make it work, even if the prototype is coming from a different frame, which is good. And he was asking about if we should have the option to test it just for local prototypes. But I think that's a less common case, and it could be handled by not using instance of expression, and you can just do another check if that's it. But you would expect from instance of this to work across the frames. So there were other stuff. I think the major issue right now is the static methods, like the methods that are not defined in the prototype, but the function itself, the object itself. Those are there are some solutions, but the major problem is in summary. I don't want to. Our current solution is workable with mostly with annotation processors. We have some solutions, but that make it locked into the Lombok. Lombok is a you guys know. Okay, Lombok is a third-party library that uses some tricks to make to have annotation processors be able to replace existing classes by manipulating the GWT ASC.
Okay.
It doesn't work. It works based on some tricks. It doesn't really rely on a supported API. I don't want to get stuck into the Lombok because if one day in, let's say, Java 9,
if the unsupported API goes away, then the work will be gone.
Yeah, right. Then that will be a huge trouble. So I think that's the major issue right now. We need to make a decision at that point. But besides that, he sends an update to his prototype. So that's also important progress.
Okay, that's good. We're making some headway.
If you looked at the prototype, how large is it? How much review is going to be involved in getting it in?
The earlier one was, I didn't look at the update. The earlier one was not too bad, but it's
growing as it gets more
1,000 lines, 1,200 lines.
Oh, that's not that bad.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I'm not sure if this is like the proper implementation or more hacky.
Yeah, maybe 3,000 to test or something.
There are no tests. Yeah, that's other. Well, actually, he had
I know all about writing prototypes without tests.
He had a test case. I'm correcting that.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Let's see.
I think Daniel might have some
Daniel?
interesting stuff with
Yeah,
V8.
I'm gonna go. We're done here.
So I've been trying to get some patches in, especially the history stuff is complicated running generally. I'm actually working on fixing a couple of patches up. The other thing I've been focusing on is making the runtime performance for GWT better. And I've ported screen benchmarks that I actually use to track V8's performance to Java and compiled them back to JavaScript. And then compared the performance to the pure JavaScript one. And there were some interesting things in there, in the sense that in some benchmarks we were actually faster, which is good news. And in some benchmarks we really sucked, and so I sat down with the V8 team and looked at the benchmarks, and we could find a couple of simple flaws within V8 that actually make GWT code run slowly, and there are simple fix-ups to the compiler that we can do. And right now I'm actually working on cleaning up the benchmarks I already got and trying to be able to open source them. So let's say if you want to do changes to the emulation stuff within GWT, you can back it up with a benchmark that's actually faster. We haven't been doing this for a long time, we probably should.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's great having these benchmarks. I think it's a good strategy to also compare it to JavaScript and see how good we are.
One funny thing.
You could, of course, when you're rewriting it, you could write it in a way that makes it
tilt the comparison.
Yeah, I think the rewriting in Java is the interesting part, right?
So no, the rewriting in Java, I'm actually doing this based like line by line, so I'm not changing any semantics here.
Okay.
So let's say if you have a collection, I'm not replacing a JS array with a array list or something like that.
Okay.
Make it, that we're pretty close to the benchmark. But what's actually interesting, I was kind of baffled by this, that sometimes the JVM is even slower at these benchmarks. So V8, well, it's not that surprising since V8 is actually optimized for this benchmark as well, but it was kind of surprising to the V8 team as well. They can actually run faster than Java in some cases.
Well, so V8 is actually, V8 is very, very heavily optimized, right? The V8 JIT is probably even more optimized than sort of what we have in JVM.
Well,
but it depends on what
benchmarks are really tricky. Sometimes, I think, especially with Hotspot, you have to warm it up for a long time before
it even gets jitted.
Before it decides to.
Yeah, but maybe V8 is better at the quick running ones. Java tends to be more optimized for long running server kind of programs.
By default, it's much longer to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same idea, so I actually let the benchmark run for an hour both. And see how many
that's long enough.
Yeah. But we're not worried about JVM performance for these benchmarks.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that was just kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Because people are talking about JavaScript games getting faster, and yeah.
So what is the plan to put these? Where are you going to put the benchmarks? Are you going to put them in somewhere under GWT, or where do you
we
want
should
to?
probably just put them into not into the same Git repository, because you want to be able to compile them with different versions of the compiler to be actually able to track performance. This is why they cannot live within the same Git repository.
Okay.
But other than that, I actually talked to Colin last week about this, and he mentioned that he would be interested in actually helping to build up a performance tracking system outside of Google that could track performance for these benchmarks. So we do have our internal systems that can do the work just fine, but it would actually be interesting to have something in the open source project.
Yeah. Well, I think the main thing is to at least host the source, right, somewhere, so it's available. So we just make the benchmark source code available
somewhere.
And I don't know how. Just want to make sure in terms of the open source, the ones you're getting it from is also open source, right? And there's the Apache sort of license. So as long as okay. No, this is great. Yeah. Maybe you can look for people from the community who can help pitch in.
That's my initial. We need to have a solid foundation, let's say, with 20 benchmarks. Then people can actually start covering their own places. There are a couple of people in IRC actually that were very annoyed about the performance of our for each loops. So they're going to for sure do something, at least do micro benchmarks in that area.
Great. So have you seen arewefastyet.com? You probably have. It's arewefastyet.com. It's a long-running graph of the performance of Chrome, Safari, and Firefox on 3 different JavaScript benchmarks, and it's been going on for like a couple of years now. And you can just see as one improves, another improves, and just like constant ongoing performance. It'd be neat to have something like that where instead of time passing, it's just sort of check-ins in GWT.
Yeah, that's a reporting thing. I think that just being able to run the benchmarks in like I put a fair amount of work into reporting, and I think it's easier just to have a way to run the reports and put them in a spreadsheet or something.
You don't see a lot of value in an ongoing dashboard.
So I actually see a lot of. We actually do have an internal system that does this work. So it's pretty easy for us to set up internally, but we cannot share this externally either. So this is why we might want to involve some work here as well. But the first step is actually getting the benchmarks out.
Yeah, I think that getting the benchmarks running, then we have the data, we can figure out what we want to do with this.
Yeah.
Like some kind of system where we can actually have this graph. V8 and Dart is doing the same thing.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's good. Anything else, Daniel?
No.
Okay. Andre, you have anything for us you want to talk about? Any things that...
Yeah, sure. I'd like to ask you about Elemental Future, because when I started sending patches to the GWT, I mostly fixed bugs that came up during my work. And one of the annoying bugs is Elemental's primitive types boxing, which I fixed, but it's now under it's
what
not
patch
still
number is that?
So I heard that you mentioned about the future of Elemental, that it probably will be used internally in GWT, but I currently don't see any changes to the Elemental, so I'm asking if my patch can make it to GWT 261.
So the story with Elemental...
I think your patch, if there is no reason to not get that in, we should get that in. I don't know if there's...
Yeah, I think the main thing with Elemental is right now it's sort of basically Ray is the kind of the sole maintainer and owner of Elemental.
And he's busy doing other things.
Yeah, so I think the thing is to ping him. Maybe we can talk to him. He sometimes dives into this meeting. I think he's actually on vacation or something. I remember. But
he
anyway,
wasn't last night. He was working on Git.
well, I know last week he was, but what I think is that maybe I can ping Ray and see where we are going there. But definitely, Elemental is an important part of this, and we have a lot of uses of Elemental.
So there are two parts. I mean, for the patch, I think we should get that part in. For the future of Elemental, I think we kind of in agreement to have a replacement for Elemental. Make web IDL based generation using JS interfaces.
So you've talked to that.
We
to
kind of
Ray about
yeah. I was thinking like that. He was thinking like this. I think.
Yeah, but I think the key is really.
But
the key is really you got to keep the current thing working before you can.
Yes, exactly. That's the reason I said.
So
I don't see any reason to not get the patch in if it doesn't breaking anything. Sure. Other than that, for the long run, yes, the goal is probably we're gonna regenerate all of those code. So that's
okay. Yeah. So we'll ping Ray when he's in, and yeah.
Did anyone review your code yet, or?
Yes, I have 2 rounds.
So what's the change number?
What?
What is the change number?
I think it's 5910. I think I found it.
I will pin it later, so you probably would like to see it later then.
So it looks like Matthew and Thomas reviewed it, but it didn't get a +2.
Okay. So let's
No.
So let's not try to review it here, but we want to just we should get this get this in and at least have some progress.
So is there anyone besides Ray who is ready to do elemental reviews, or is it just Ray?
Right now it's just Ray. So that's another thing is we have a number of components in.
And maybe we need another maintainer for elemental.
Yeah, we have a number of components in Git where there's only like one person. And
yeah, so I think we forgot to even add that too. Did we add that?
So Thomas Breuer looked all the patches in Elemental, so we probably can ask him to review it again. His comments were very useful. And another thing, I saw a patch from Ray Cromwell. He worked on a bug in JSMap string 2. The bug was in that JSMap from string 2 created object through object create, which doesn't have a prototype, and this class fails on his own property. So Ray's fixed it, but Thomas said that Elemental is going to change, and that page didn't make it to GWT 2.6. But I think we should review it too, because it's a bug fix.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. I think here's what I'm going to do. Maybe since Ray's not here, I'll try to send him a separate email and talk to him about Elemental, and see if we can.
Ray actually
can also ping Thomas.
Yeah, see if we can get another maintainer also, sort of saying yes. Yeah. So those things. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Let's see. Anything else we want to chat about? Any other?
Since as you saw, I made some micro changes to GWT, and I'm running out of it. So I'd like to ask all of you: do you have interesting work that needs some assistance? And I'd like to ask, since Thomas Breuer is not here, I heard he was going to put GWT on Maven and probably on Gradle. So I want to ask you, what's progress on that task?
So are you saying moving GWT to use Maven? Is that what? Because we do have Maven.
So he said that he had heard that Thomas was working on moving GWT to Maven and also moving GWT.
You mean Mavenizing GWT?
Yeah. So like.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, Thomas was having a hard time actually getting that to work completely.
Yeah.
And so I think his last take on that, if I remember from the thread, was that there's a lot of internal things we need to change. So we need to take GWT and sort of break it apart, modularize it, and do a whole bunch of what do you call it? Rearrangements? What do you want? A rearrangement, re-architect the way it's put together, and then you can Mavenize more easily.
And he looked at Gradle, and he kind of decided. I think he decided that he was unhappy with the Gradle design. So I don't think either of those are moving forward right now.
I think.
Yeah, we need to go and revisit that. But I think basically, the decision was, let's look at GWT 3.0 when we can break apart GWT, make it more smaller pieces, better chunks, and then we can design the build system.
I agree that path from Maven to Gradle would be much easier than Ant to Gradle. So maybe Maven is a better decision.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this. It's come up every now and then. It comes up, and I think that the last thing I know is that we've decided it's too big and monolithic right now to be able to just Mavenize it as is. We need to restructure it, do a bunch of things.
And I think internally we're not prioritizing that restructuring until we have incremental compilation in place, and then we'll have a lot of motivation to do that restructuring.
I think the last thing we actually decided on was to actually look at Buck as a real alternative for the system, because with Buck we can actually share most of the same build files that we use internally to what we use externally. So it doesn't mean that we have to maintain two separate sets of build files anymore.
Yeah, we haven't figured anything out there at this point.
So in terms of changes to the emulation, it would be really interesting to back some of these changes up with benchmarks. So as soon as I have the benchmarks in a workable, publishable state, I would love for you to see. I would love to see you actually making some of the benchmarks addition to that in terms of the changes you're doing to the emulation stuff and GWT. That would be really exciting.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Anything else we have for today?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's all. Anything else here? Last call for topics. Okay, great. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.